Okay, here we are, our daily fuel. We are going through the New Testament in a year, and we are in John chapter 18, almost finishing the Gospel of John. So, chapter 17 was all red letters. I have a red letter Bible. That means the words of Jesus. And in that particular chapter, they're all red letters. It's all the words of Jesus. And the interesting thing about those words is that it's his prayer, and it's his prayer to the Father. And he prays for his disciples, he prays for the apostles, and then he prays for you and me. And then he prays for the people that we're sharing Christ with, the people that are in our lives. So Jesus praying for us, and then praying for the people that we're praying for. So what happens after you pray? Well, we get to chapter 18. Directly after Jesus prayed, we hit chapter 18. When Jesus finished praying, Jesus went with his disciples and they crossed over the Kidron Valley. They're going in and out of the city of Jerusalem. On the other side, there was a garden. This is known as the Garden of Gethsemane, the olive press. And on the other side, and he and his disciples went into that particular garden. Now, Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place because Jesus often met there with his disciples. So it was a frequent place for them to go, and would Jesus just teach his disciples there, because he's always teaching the crowds. It seems to be a place where they get away. It's a little more private. You can go there today, and it's very private. It's a lovely place to actually visit and sit and read and think and pray. So they often met there, and Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees. Now Judas is leading them, seem to be armed soldiers, and the religious leaders. They were carrying torches and lanterns and weapons, coming at night to get Jesus. And they've got the street lights with them, right? Using fire for light. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it you want? What are you coming here for? What are you looking for? Who are you looking for?" He knew what was going to happen. This was the plan. He's going to go to the cross, and all of this was prophesied, that he would be betrayed, and that the Gentiles would take him. And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth. We're looking for Jesus of Nazareth." And Jesus said, "I'm him. You got the guy. I'm him." Jesus said, and Judas, the traitor, was standing there with them. And when Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and they fell to the ground. Wow, you got to love that, right? Jesus just speaking in just his words, just saying, "I am he," and they fall to the ground. Well, this whole thing, "I am," ego, me, the tetragrammaton, I'm he. And again, he asked, "Well, who is it you want?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." And he said, "I told you that I am he. If you're looking for me, then let these men go. If you're looking for me, leave these guys alone. They haven't done anything. I'll go with you gladly." And this happened so that the words he had spoken would be fulfilled, where he said, just previous in the prayer, "I have not lost one of those that you gave me." And that was in the prayer in the previous chapter, and he's not going to lose any of them. And then Simon Peter, who had a sword, he drew it, and he struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Now, I often point out when we get to this particular part that Peter wasn't trying to do a surgical operation and take this guy's ear off and aiming his sword and trying to get close and making sure that he doesn't hit the guy's cheek. He's coming down in such a manner that if he would have hit this guy in the head, he would have split his head right in half. But the guy moves and hits his ear. And Jesus commanded Peter, he said, put the sword away, put the sword away. Shouldn't I drink from the cup that my Father has given to me? So you don't need to protect Jesus. He's going to drink from the cup. Then the detachment of soldiers with its commander, and the Jewish officials arrested Jesus. Jesus gets arrested. They bound him and they brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. So they bring him to the old man's house, the father-in-law's house. And Caiaphas was the one who advised the Jewish leaders that it would be good if one man died for the people. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen with Jesus. It's going to be one man is going to die not only for the people there, but Jesus is going to die for all people for the sins of the world. And anybody that wants to receive that can receive that because the price has been paid. He did it, and it's for all who received him. He gave the power to become the sons of God. Simon Peter and another disciple who were following Jesus. Because this disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the high priest's courtyard, but Peter had to wait outside the door. So somehow, this other disciple knows the high priest, and he goes in and sees him. And Peter's waiting outside. The other disciple came back, he spoke to the servant girl on duty, and then he brought Peter in. He said, come on in. Come on in. So they're not going to go all the way into what's going on, but they're going to be there in the courtyard. And the servant girl on duty brought Peter in. And she said, aren't you one of this man's disciples too? She asked him. And he said, I'm not. Now, Jesus had said previously that Peter would deny him and would deny him 3 times. But Peter's like, not me, man. I will never, ever deny you. Well, here he is. He's doing it. You know, how often have we in our own power thought that we were so strong and so secure that we could do anything that we wanted to do in our own power? You know, we won't do that. We won't fall into sin. We won't be tempted. We won't experience a moment of weakness. And he said, I'm not. It was cold, and the servants and the officials stood around a fire they had made to keep warm. And then Peter was standing there with them, warming himself. Some people see this as the pathway to backsliding, sort of denying Jesus. You don't want to acknowledge him publicly. And then you find yourself standing with the enemies of Jesus, and not only standing with the enemies of Jesus, but warming yourself by their fire. And meanwhile, the high priest had questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. The high priest is grilling him. And Jesus said, I've spoken openly to the world. I've always taught in the synagogues or at the temple where all the Jews come together. I haven't said anything in secret. Why question me? Ask those who heard me. Surely they know what I said. You know, nothing hidden, nothing nefarious, nothing evil. When Jesus said this, one of the officials nearby slapped him in the face. Is this the way you answer the high priest? He demanded. And Jesus said, well, if I said something wrong, then testify to me what's wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why do you strike me? Then Annas had him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. All right, here we go. Here we go. He's going to the high priest. And then you have Peter again. Watch this. Meanwhile, Simon Peter was standing there warming himself at the enemy's fire. And so they asked him, they said, aren't you one of his disciples too? And Peter said, no, not me, man. No, not me. Nope. And one of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, challenged him. And he said, didn't I see you in the garden? Weren't you the guy in the garden? Weren't you the guy with the sword? And again, Peter denied it. And at that moment, a rooster began to crow. And Peter experiences some shame. He experiences a lot of shame. He is reminded of what Jesus said. He is embarrassed by his actions. He feels shame, and he's dejected. We'll find by the time we get to the end of John's Gospel that Jesus is really good at restoring us, and he's really good at restoring us from our shame and from our failures. But we leave it off here where Peter has failed and Peter is feeling shame. So we'll pick it up. The story gets better. Hey, bless you guys. Love you. Let's keep moving through the Gospel of John. Love you.